and welcome to the MAPS Canada webinar series, examining the psychedelic renaissance season 2. My name is Ashley Athil. I'm CEO and co-founder of Harvester Cannabis, and I'm also the host for this series and a new volunteer of MAPS Canada. We are now in episode 11 of season 2 of our web series, and we have some amazing speakers on board. Each of these speakers will be showing up to share important information and their take on the psychedelic renaissance. At MAPS Canada, the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, we are on the front line of conducting studies to develop psychedelics into safe and legal medical treatments since their formation. To conduct and publish scientific research and education supporting the beneficial use of psychedelic medicines, MAPS Canada relies on public donations and fundraising initiatives. The funds raised from this webinar series will go to fund this research. So thank you. Thank you for being here because your investment makes a difference. To view the different studies that MAPS is currently working on, please see full details at mapscanada.org and maps.org. To make this webinar possible, we have many volunteers at MAPS that help out. So I just wanted to take this time to say a huge thank you to all of them. We also have some amazing sponsors who have stepped up to support this webinar, and some have supplied great perks for you to take advantage of. If you haven't heard about these, you can access them here at mapscanada.org/webinar. The password is psilocybin. Thank you again for our sponsors supplying these. Now, before we start our conversation and the presentation, just a couple of housekeeping items that I just want you to make note of. We will start our discussion with Josh, Kelly, and Delphina. After that, we will start our QA session. Ask the questions at the bottom of your screen and vote up the questions so I know exactly which ones are most important. And let us know where you're tuning in from the chat. If there's people from Hamilton, Ontario, Bremerton, Washington, New York, aloha to Hawaii. Hello, Vancouver. I'm in Ontario. Hello from Winnipeg, Santa Bruno, California, Gibson, BC, London, Ontario. You guys just keep rolling in. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. We really appreciate it. So, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers for today. Josh, Sarvis, and Kelly Dunn are humus beings dedicated to the regeneration of the earth and her inhabitants. Vitality of water, soil, plants, human, mycology, and cellular renewal has been their focus for over 30 years. They have always cultivated pure, closed-loop cannabis and other medicinal plants for a better understanding of the healthy mind, body, and soil connection. Soil, in its most basic form, holds nutrients and microbiology for the creation of all life. Each region has its own soil, which contains a microbial community that supports indigenous bacteria, fungi, microbes, and ultimately plant life that is particular to that region. It is their sole agreement and dharma to help people ally with nature and to understand how to utilize these natural systems created by nature. They are dedicated to intentionally and actively educating cannabis gardeners on purity in cultivation. They are passionate about being a clear, conscious voice for the cannabis plant, whom has given so many benefits to humanity. They created Dragonfly Earth Medicine, which is not only a nutrient company, but an educational platform for regenerative outdoor and indoor cannabis cultivation. Pure certification was also started by DEM and has become a community-driven, beyond organic certification for cannabis cultivation and extraction. They have consulted many large cannabis facilities and farms to grow to the highest quality cannabis using biodiversity, polyculture, soil building, nutrient intelligence, seed breeding, and regenerative farming practices. Welcome, Josh and Kelly. We also have Delphina Dorrance, a co-founder and CVO of One Heart Hub, Centers for Food, Arts, Culture, Ecology, and is dedicated to supporting the health and wellness of people and the planet by developing places and programs for all ages and all cultures to feed your soul. Delphina is directly involved in physical, operational, and social design to support local economies in regenerative local farming, local arts, culture, healing arts, education, and events to help create and enhance community connections. Delphina is the CVO creatrix of Koala Village, Hub Pub, Koala Village Inn and Learning Center, Heartwood Mountain Sanctuary, Heartwood Mountain Farm, DEM, Pure Certified Dragon Heart Farms, Touching the Earth Land Company, Blue Dragon Bodywork, and artistic director for Blue Dragon Tavern and Cosmic Musicarium. She is president of Feed Hawaii Board, Dorrance Family Foundation member, Ohana Homeschool Cooperative member, DEM Pure Collective founding board member, and a current student of Greg Braden, Charles Einstein, Lynn Twist, and Starhawk. Delphina has a BA from Ithaca College, certified in permaculture design, permaculture teacher training, and is a licensed massage aquatic therapist. A professional musician, including principal bassist with Kamula Philharmonic, and Maui Pops Orchestra. She is a mom of 3 children, a budding songwriter, dancer, and founder of the new One Heart World Initiative. Welcome, Delphina. So, I'd like to see if any of the speakers can just kind of maybe bring their videos on, just so everybody can just take a look and say hello. I'm going to speak a little bit more about the webinar topic that we're going to be discussing today. So, Josh Sarvis and Kelly Dunn from Dragonfly Earth Medicine, and Delphina Dorrance from One Heart Hub and Heartwood Mountain Sanctuary will talk about the important role cannabis has had in the health and wellness of body, mind, spirit in this time of great transition. This is a transformative master plan that is coming out of oppression and stigma and making her grand entrance into worldwide popular culture. How can we learn from her karmic path and follow her lead of resistance and weaving collective consciousness at a time of uncertainty for humanity? Josh, Kelly, and Delphina will dive deeply into the critical role that this plant has taken to bring the awakening and clear recognition of our own evolutionary roles on the planet, how she has emerged and given the spotlight to other master plants, and how they each learn an adaptive language required to speak to humans. The guidance from cannabis is a gift. I might have to repeat that again for everybody in the back. The guidance from cannabis is a gift, creating and offering a delicate healing and balance for the rapid changes humanity faces to move forward into our ultimate potential. So, without further ado, let's bring the speakers on.
I just want to...
Okay.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Something sounds loud.
I'm trying to mute.
But
Somebody just showed up right next to me, weed whacking. So I'm trying to mute.
Well, maybe see if you can just mute that, Delphina. Maybe we can start off with,
okay.
Yeah, Josh and Kelly.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. We have so much appreciation and love for MAPS, both MAPS Canada and in the US. Anywhere MAPS goes, you can assure yourself that there's going to be incredible education that follows it, and laws to make change for the betterment of humanity. And so we want to give thanks for MAPS and everything they've done for our community and continue to do. And also to be in the presence of Delphina and everything that you're a part of and everything that you pour your heart into is a true pleasure, and it's an honor. And we have so much respect for you, Delphina. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us and to share this cannabis awakening to everyone who's watching.
And cannabis has been, when we talk about this time of great awakening or this time of transition, or even some people are utilizing the time of great pause, we know that cannabis has not only been slowly making her way into the educational system throughout the world, but she's making her way into all of our living rooms. She's making a way at our family dinner conversations. This is a plant medicine that has been incredibly for at least the last almost 200 years. And with that oppression, she still is, growing in gardens that are indoors or in cracks on the side of the highways where, maybe the highways department weren't able to pull it up, say in Iowa or in Kentucky. But we have this great, incredible, rich history with this plant. The history with this plant is so incredibly rich that we even have an endocannabinoid system, which we will get into a little bit later.
And Delphina, if you'd like to share a little opening thought, that would be great. And then maybe we'll go into the slideshow and talk about what our experience with cannabis.
Thank you. The weed whacker's off for a moment, so if I have to jump back to mute, that is why. And just thank you so much for the wonderful intro and everybody who's helping put this on, and Josh and Kelly for definitely being here. So excited to be together on this forum and everything that MAPS is doing in the world to spread the good word. So I'm just super honored, and I'm ready for you to take it away. But I can't see you. I don't want to be the only one to be seen.
So I'm wanting to share my screen right now, and I'm not sure how to. So if someone's helping us, and they can help me, because here it is. Share screen. Allow.
We're gonna get there.
I'm trying to figure this out. And then that, and then this, and that will get us to the beginning of our slides. So what we are...
Is everybody seeing the slides?
So we're assuming everyone can see the slides. We can't see you, Delphine, at this moment. So we're just hoping you jump in when needed. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how cannabis is interwoven with the very fabric of our life and with the very fabric of our bodies and our physiology, and how it interacts with nature and our surroundings, and how the cannabis awakening is not just a plant medicine awakening, but it's an opportunity to heal the earth, because the cannabis is a consciousness medicine, and it helps bring our consciousness towards problems on the earth. And so, and the cultivation of cannabis and the use of cannabis can help bring us into a more healthy world.
And as cannabis is making her way into, all of these conversations, as I was saying before, she has become like the door opener. She is definitely this incredible gateway of knowledge to all the rest of plant medicine. When people partake in cannabis, they have an incredible realization that this plant, that the ingestion of this plant can be changing the consciousness of that person. And there's an incredible responsibility that we have in humanity in how we are treating this plant and how we educate about this plant, about how we cultivate with this plant. The incredible importance that this is an sentient being, a master plant that is going to help guide us to answer so many of the questions that we're all looking for, especially in this year of 2020.
And the plant is creating itself as it grows. It's in a 400 million year evolution. Our bodies are a part of that evolution. And we often refer to it as a fractal medicine because it has a fractal of possibilities. Anything is possible with the plant, from, as we know, from food to fodder for animals to the very rich trichomes, which you're seeing in this picture. And when cultivated in accordance with nature and when cultivated in the earth, it really brings out the full magic of the plant. And so we want to take you on a journey of this evolution and of, you know, some of the history that's gone into this plant and some of the modern ways that we can take it on in order to create some of the healing that we're talking about. And some of the earliest of all of our civilizations as we know it have embraced cannabis, and the Vedas and the Upanishads and in India and in the Himalaya mountain range is one of the oldest continuous civilizations on earth. And this is a picture of Shiva and Lord Shiva and how he embodies cannabis and yoga and meditation and creation and destruction. And it's significant to see a long-term historical culture be able to continue to embody this master plant and to embody it. And one of the important, we feel, historical points of Shiva in that story is that there was a poison that was created on the earth by gods that could have killed all of humanity, which is funny because we're in this, it's not funny, but it's significant because we're in this COVID time where we're all in lockdown and watching each other. And in the story of Shiva, he chose to drink all of the poison that was going to kill all humanity. And as he processed all of the poisons, the other gods and goddesses gave him cannabis and a bong formulation that was able to calm his body and cure his body of this ailment that could kill the earth. So it shows that we can, you know, look towards historical, cultural connections towards cannabis to continue to be the guiding light towards a healthier future.
And if we look back 5,000 years of, you know, the most written texts that we have of health and well-being and different types of recipes and compounding herbs, we see cannabis over and over again, both in Chinese herbal and in Sanskrit. We also see it in the hieroglyphs. So this is, and where have we ever seen such a plant that has so many deities attached to it, so many gods and goddesses? This plant has been revered and prayed over and has been used to find answers and been used to find solutions to all of humanity since the very beginning of time. We can see this in the historical references, such as this particular historical reference, but we can also see it, like I was saying earlier, and I am going to get into a little bit later, is the endocannabinoid system. So, you know, from the very beginning of time, when we have a single cell and that single cell splits and it turns into a zygote, from that moment, we are embedded with our endocannabinoid system. And this endocannabinoid system has been part of the very generating of cells from the very start and spark of life.
And this is a picture from Africa and the Pygmy people. We know about the Pygmy people as a really significant earth-strong indigenous community who uses cannabis for their gastrointestinal worms, but also, you know, they use it for inspiration for work and music and everything that's important to them. And I think that's a beautiful, you know, pipe that this man is holding. And we know the Dogon tribe in Mali of Africa is also a significant cannabis historical community, which knew about the star of Sirius and the cannabis, the dog star, which is like the canine star, and cannabis, and that connection between dogs, cannabis, Sirius, and ancient civilization.
And also, you know, the ancient Mayan texts, we see that in this time of upheaval, in this time of difficulty, Mayan texts say that it is going to be a flower that saves the humans of this time. And I think that, you know, we can look at cannabis as maybe the answer to that, but cannabis, like I had said before, is opening doorways to plant spiritual medicine. She's allowing and giving a pathway so that we are more open to the ideas of what plant medicine holds for us. So much of what we have relied on for our answers and our theories is really scientific studies, which is, you know, isolation, something that we continue to do as human beings. We're always isolating things to try to explain something, whereas nature and the natural realms, and when you are experiencing the epigenetics of where it was grown, you're experiencing the cultivator, you're experiencing the energy that went into this particular plant medicine. And we always say as cultivators, every single flower that we are cultivating could be affecting somebody's hour, their day, their lifetime, their entire relationship with cannabis. So this is an incredibly important, you know, to blend our historical past with this plant, where we've come from with it, to where we want to go with it. And we do recognize over and over again that this relationship of plant medicine to humanity is so intricately involved and so incredibly important. And I guess I wanted to move it over to you right now, Delphina. For some reason, the slide that you had wasn't showing, but I know that you wanted to talk about some of the history of Aloha and of Hawaii and plant medicine. So could you jump in here?
Let's see. Yes, I don't know if I can find my slide. And though I was going to touch on the community weaving piece. So I don't know if it is a good time yet, or let you guys do more of the history first.
You know, we could, this is a good time. This is a great time, and we'll keep it here for now.
And we're going to go over more community later with One Heart and all the other things. So
towards the end.
So jump on in.
I am, oh my gosh.
I don't think your slide's going to work, so we'll just keep it on this.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to find it.
Yeah. So go ahead and just tell the story. And
well, I really needed the slide to do the definition. So
okay, well,
one more
I would
sec, or if you guys could do the next one, then I'll try to pull it up at least on my phone so I can read it if I can't.
Sure. And
Okay.
that's okay. You can jump in at any time. We're going to go on and talk about community even, you know, further on than this. So what we're recognizing is that within this cultivation and this intention, and what we were just talking about earlier with this isolation theory, Josh and I are really recognizing, and it took, you know, a really deep spiritual, intentional circle with cannabis to recognize that as humans, to answer the great mysteries of what, where, and why in our existence, and the mysteries of life and death, we're always continuously looking towards science. but yet science continues to isolate any type of theory to make an explanation of something.
And as we've seen historically in the indigenous cultures that we went through, you know, this was communal living. This was how we survived. If we were going to be alone and isolated, we wouldn't be able to survive as well. The plant itself, the cannabis plant alone, has, you know, hundreds of molecular medicinal compounds. And here we see a picture of what we, as a culture, we see this as an advancement of agriculture. We're talking about the, not us, but in life, there's the Green Revolution, which was supposedly, you know, was the advancement of humanity to feed more people. But what we're getting is dependence. We're creating a solitude. We don't have a community to surround us anymore.
And this particular picture is of monoculturing. So here we have, again, we've isolated a particular crop, and we expect that crop to continually yield for us. And we've lost the microbiology. So we isolate one particular feeding system to then have to isolate another system for pesticides, because then you continue to have different pressures from outside unbeneficial and illness. And this is happening both with humanity and with plants. This is just a picture of a petri dish. We try to explain all of the mysteries of nature and of experiential observation that we're having on this incredible plane of this human existence. We're trying to explain with a petri dish. And now we do feel a place in this world. It is important, but we have really tipped the scales on how much that we want science to explain for us. We cannot expect to continue to isolate. This is a picture of pharmaceuticals. We're taking plant medicine and the incredible intelligence of the compounding elements that plant medicine has to offer us, and we're taking one small isolating factor, and we're maybe treating a symptom, which is, again, an isolating way to look at an educational format. So nature continues to show us that compounding and bringing in different types of communal actions and
allopathic medicine is part of the oppression that was put on cannabis. It's the same oppression that was put on psychedelic medicine. It's the same oppression that's put on all psychoactive plant medicine in the world, as we know, with ayahuasca and mushrooms. These are important, pivotal compounds to the evolution of our species, and we're being forced this allopathic mindset as an advancement. And we're here to say that the advancement is in nature. We're saying that isolation can't bring us health. This is a picture of the ultimate worst thing that could happen to a human. Isolating a human or isolating a plant is the same thing. If you're isolating one compound, it's the same thing. And then so to break out of the cycle and to embrace cannabis and this awakening, this is where we bring in community, and this is where we bring in the entourage effect, and this is where we bring in the endocannabinoid system and the array of medicines through medicinal mushrooms, and compounding them with cannabis and compounding them with other Chinese herbs and Ayurvedic herbs. And this is where we embrace our diversity and we recognize community as our true health and well-being. And community isn't the government, and community isn't the local hospital. Those are fine as an extreme or an emergency, but the actual well-being of our soul and our health comes from community. And this is a picture of a Dharma wheel. And often in life, people are creating a farm, or they're creating a business, or they're creating a network, and there may be a pyramid shape, or there may be a shape where everything leads towards money, or everything leads towards one thing. And we like the idea of a model for business, or a model for growing, being like a Dharma wheel, to where you can make your own words that make your Dharma wheel spin, but without all aspects of these without these words that embrace our life, you know, the wheel won't spin properly.
And Delphina, you've been doing tremendous work in the recognizing of the importance of community and this Dharma wheel, and pretty much everything that you've done is welcoming in holistic, you know, representation from all different facets. Can you talk a little bit about why, you know, all of these different facets in our life are really important for the success of both plant medicine and getting behind it, and also the success and well-being of us as individuals within community?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm loving the wheel of life here. It does beautifully represent, you know, having a center with a focus and all of the out spokes. So the spokes of light, we use that in many of our logos, the sun rays, the wheel as well. And what is at the center, what is holding everything together, you know, and that really is and needs to still be love. I mean, it is the greatest power. And I feel like the sacrament, the sacredness of the cannabis plant has been showing that simple reminder to humans for a long time, and that we are literally entering, like even with this moon 2 nights ago and solstice coming up, we're ready, guys. We're buckling up. We're ready for this new era. We are hopefully getting almost all the way through 2020, and the grand pause has been the grand revaluation, you know, what to not put up with anymore, how to feed the people, how to have basic needs met. These are how we need to rebuild our civilization now. And it takes everything, and it takes everybody, surely at least a village, and certainly starting with yourself, with this beautiful feminine goddess plant has been showing us for a long time. And so as we're entering this new era, we are entering a time of feminism perspective, feminine, which just means whole again. It just means it still includes the gentleman and the masculine and the active, but it's also the passive. It's also the dark. It's being okay to have, you know, messy conversations and add some humor and explore and invite everybody to the table who's not at the table. You know, how do we get our voices heard so that we can keep connecting all the dots on the wheel? I think that's our greatest opportunity right now, and we can choose. I love it because we can choose it and kind of sign up for this overnight, but it's going to be decades or, you know, a century for us to work on, but we can all agree what to envision right now. And there's been so much wisdom coming out, and kind of thanks to COVID. I mean, we have to give, some credit to this giant educator for sure that's happening. So I think some of the other pieces I wanted to talk about is more the, how does that happen? And that's why I was going to go back to some of the Hawaiian roots. You know, I've only been here on the island 22 years, and I've been just learning and soaking up, and so full of gratitude to be here. But I really think that the values behind Aloha, it's like love, but it puts even more behind it, or what that actually can look like. So I was going to take a second to read sort of this definition of Aloha. Each letter of Aloha stands for a Hawaiian word, which stands for a meaning, and then it has an action actually attached to it. So the first A stands for akahai, meaning kindness. And how do you express that? You express kindness with tenderness. The L is lokahi. So the idea that, yes, everything is unity, everything is one, everything is connected. And how does that express? It's expressed with harmony. The O is olu olu, meaning agreeable. So expressed with pleasantness or approachability, you could call that, just a comfort level, right? Of having access to the good word. I always say, all ages, all cultures, right? To just how to make it approachable and comfortable. The H, ha'a, meaning humility. So expressed with modesty and just humility as opposed to some of the aggression, I think that we're definitely used to. And then the last A, aho nui, meaning patience, perseverance, hanging in there. I think we're all really practicing that one these days. So good job, everybody. And I think that's one of the biggest messages too from the plants right now is that, it's okay. It's a lot. You're all doing it really well. You're all beautiful, and we're all doing the best that we can. I think the more that we come to that, center of the wheel and agree on what to agree on, the more strong civilization we can build in this new zone.
Exactly. Well put. And people, and here we are in this great cannabis awakening. That's what we're here to talk about is why is cannabis so important? How is it so influential in our life? And I mean, you have to look at the cannabinoids. You have to look at it and there's no other plant on earth that has so many medicinal compounds, that has so many so many gifts to humanity, and as we grow it, we learn how to bring those gifts to light. And part of that of our endocannabinoid system, and every living thing on earth is an endocannabinoid system that has a spine. So everything has cannabis. So in our history up to this point, everything has always ingested cannabis, whether it's through the seeds or the roots or our neurological system.
And in this time, I loved what you were just saying with the Aloha, Delphina. It's like everything that we want to achieve within Aloha is everything that we want to achieve within our own health and well-being. We can't even have Aloha unless we are addressing our own homeostasis, our own body, our own health and well-being. And cannabis, like I was saying earlier, was at the beginning of our very start of life, just like, the generator of a cell that we see within every cell. So the brain and the tonsils and the central nervous system, the spleen, all have these endocannabinoid receptors that cannabis really is fulfilling. And it regulates. So it creates homeostasis when our endocannabinoid system is fulfilled. And here we are, a plant, this incredible sentient being, master plant, is a part of us from such a beginning of time, our building block makeups of how we even think and breathe and even coexist, and cannabis is involved in that.
And we recognize now more than ever that it's not just a frivolous drug or a recreational thing to kill brain cells and to do it's actually quite the opposite. And that probably is why there was such a war against this medicine, because there's a level where society wants to keep you bound, and cannabis unbinds you, and fungi and mushrooms, they unbind you, and this cannabinoid system is part of that recognition.
And when we grow plants within where they need to be, it's just like a fish out of water is a fish out of water. A plant out of soil is the same, a plant out of soil. So cannabis continues to push the information forward that our alignment with nature, our alignment with microbiology, our alignment with soil is aligning with, again, our basic building blocks of our health and well-being, and how we can actually have future generations that are also healthy. We find that if we're feeling anxiety, or we're having cancer, or Parkinson's disease, or Crohn's disease, or really a whole myriad of maladies within our bodies, we can directly relate to an overabundance of pathogenic microbiology in our gut, in our blood, within our tests, and inside of our tissues, or that we're actually lacking a tremendous amount of microbiology. There's a lot of focus on the microbes that we're losing on the planet. You know, we're losing our snow leopard, we're losing a tremendous amount of elephants, we're losing, you know, genocide with certain people and humans on the planet. But what we don't talk about is this toxicity of our continuation of continuing to isolate things is creating a breakdown of very important microbiology that is, again, the building blocks of our health and our well-being. So we need to look at the soil. And when we look to the soil, then we know that we can restore the imbalance that has happened. So as cultivators of the plant, we can look at this picture.
And we can see in this picture that the plant is uptaking bacteria, endophytic bacteria and endophytic fungi from the soil and transforming it into every part of the plant. So this is why soil-grown, earth-grown cannabis is so important.
And plant medicine.
Yes, you can grow plants, even, you know, psychedelic mushrooms indoors, but mushrooms grown in nature, cannabis grown in nature has this magical web to create medicine from. The medicine in cannabis is known as a secondary metabolite. So it's a secondary medicine that's produced based off what it's given. So this picture shows you how the plant is keeping Bacillus lichenformis and mycobacteriums up in the bud and all these different parts of the plant. So when you make this, you're getting those organisms back. And also the plant is bringing these organisms up into the plant, and it's also putting the organisms back into the soil in higher numbers. So the plant at the root fuses nutrients and living organisms, fuses them at the root, stores them into the plant body, and then reproduces those and puts them back into the soil.
And with our food, if we're eating, you know, food that comes from soil that's fully enriched and has a great diverse microbiology, then there's going to be a diversity of micronutrients, a diversity of microminerals that go up into our food. So when we talk about eating living foods, this is exactly what we're talking about, because we know that maladies and illness come from a microbiome that's not fully intact. So I love this incredible thought, is that all humans on the planet are 99.9% identical as far as our DNA. But as far as our microbiome, we are 99.9% different. So it is our microbiology that creates individuality. This is this dynamic, you know, billions of organisms inside of our body, all completing these highly intelligent maneuvers and colonizations and eating and decomposing inside of our body. And when we ally with more beneficial, higher intelligent microbiology, then we have the ability to really reach higher heights and to transcend a lot of what science and what the human mind has offered us in this time of overtoxicity on the planet. We can look towards plant medicine, healthy, full, intact microbiome plant medicine for the true answers for our collective consciousness, for our individual consciousness.
And, you know, this is a perfect example of how the plant is eating the air. It's eating from the leaf surface. It's eating from the inside of the plant blood. It's eating from the rhizosphere, and it's eating from the depths of the micronutrients in the soil. So having multiple plants growing together with their roots interacting in the soil, having multiple plants growing above the ground, growing together, brings in that homeostasis that we look for in our body, and it brings it into the field. And how can we bring spirituality into our cannabis? What is the ultimate conscious cannabis? because we know it's grown indoors. It can be conscious, but it's not going to have the same evolutionary qualities that we're looking for. So we're going to go through, we're going to go through this how to prepare your soil and how to grow cannabis and believing, putting the seeds in your mouth as a way to imprint your DNA onto the outside of the seed surface. And when the seed pops its first root, it's going to be able to take the coding of your DNA and work on immediately creating medicine for you, and also based off your own living soil.
And have that intelligence of what it is that it's doing for us. It's here as a sentient conscious being to work with us, that we are here with these plant guides and these plant spirit medicine teachers. They are here and they love to be guided in the same way that we want to be guided in ceremony. They also want to be guided in cultivation. They want to be guided in the direction that they want to be taken with what it is that we're asking of them. I think that very often with plant medicine, we are asking so much of these plant spirits that it's time now to create more of a balance, that we're giving to them as much as they are giving to us. That giving and receiving is much like that Dharma Wheel, that it's more holistic, that we know that we can count on all of the different fulfillment attributes when we partake in plant medicine.
And Delphina, maybe if you could talk on Dragonheart Farm and the amazing transition that you've done there, and you can branch off into any other aspect, but we were very impressed with the mulching and the preparation of topsoil.
And incredible diversity.
Can you talk about how that's transformed your land?
I mean, we have seen such a change. It's just turned so emerald and lush, and you can just feel it in the air, in the fruits and vegetables. It's just giving back. So I really like what you said about how it's been giving so much. So what we can put into the soil and add with the worms and keep building up our topsoil. That's one of the most important things that we can for sure be doing right now. I also wanted to go back to the endocannabinoid system. I just love, first of all, it's new. It's pretty new knowledge still. So I'm just really looking forward to those of you who are going to be helping spread, educating about the system. I see it sort of as the space in between a lot of the internal systems. So it kind of glues things together. So I'm just looking forward to that being part of learning, through the youth and especially through doctors. And you're absolutely right. Isolationist theory are all of the specialization that we as humans have been able to do and have accomplished over 100, 200, especially years. That's great. We've learned so much. And now how to put those pieces back together, how to have all this knowledge, but help make it make sense in one big ball of wax, I feel is our excellent opportunity next, for sure.
And it is an opportunity, and this awakening it's an opportunity. And let's also say it is it's really important for us to embrace it as an opportunity to make change. Here we are, we have this ability to grow. Well, now let's transform thousands of acres, towards building topsoil. Here's cannabis growing out of mulch, but when people are saying how good cannabis is, this is what you look for on what good cannabis is. And so, building topsoil is probably one of the most important aspects. And that's how you, filter the groundwater and how you bring in the water component. And so this is an example of how we bring in weeds and master weed plants from our land to create a closed loop intelligent system to create nutrients for our land. So our opportunity to grow cannabis is an opportunity to connect with nature, understand the raw materials that we're near, and to be able to transform that into teas. And these teas are this type of tea that you're making from these kinds of weeds, or any other weed from your area. Weed it's a pioneer plant. It's an opportunistic plant. It's a surviving plant. It's something that has a tremendous amount of growth hormones and nettles. You know, there are sometimes 11, 12 feet tall on our property.
And this is just an example of utilizing other intelligent plants, other intelligent master plants to help bring that biodiversity to your soil. We need to, you know, start recognizing that we don't feed plants. Soil and microbiology feeds plants in the same way that we actually don't feed ourselves either. We would not be feeding ourselves unless we were feeding ourselves through a direct IV tube feeding. But when you feed yourself through your mouth and you drink through your mouth, it's the very important microbiology breakdown that turns it into micronutrients and food for your body. So that's a much higher intelligent way. When we bypass the microbiology that helps break that down, then we're bypassing the very basics of the regeneration and composting and death and life cycle. Because if we look at nature and we understand what it is that nature is doing, her number one goal is to make soil. Everything that nature does is here to make soil. So when we're in alignment with nature, we try to mimic what, you know, nature is doing. Is she trying to make soil by her seasonal letdown of break down the ground? Well, all those micronutrients have been caught up into the leaves that then go onto the ground that bring new nutrients for the microbiology. So then that cycle continues of growth and life and death. And then we're in full alignment with Mother Nature and her sacred cycles to create healthier medicine.
And that's the real gateway drug, right? It goes to everything. Soil building, the choices that we have in the food that we purchase, the way our food systems work in our communities, our water source, the medicine, and that can all turn into economics and funding and, you know, hope. And then that reverence part, I love how Zach Bush talks about that's even more important than love, because it's easier to explain. It's the beauty. So when you're hit with that just natural, awestruck beauty of nature and you're feeling that connection, and when you're not feeling that, how different of a world, and how this is truly a gateway for experiencing that level of sacredness, that unity and that connection. And I just
beautiful.
And
I had
notice
to kind of creep in. I just want to time check right now. We're about 52 minutes into an hour, but we do have some questions that we would like to bounce off of all of you. But I just want to thank you, Josh, Kelly, Delphina. Thank you so much for all of that important information. And I can't tell you, from somebody who works in this industry, how refreshing it is to hear this information. We know about it, but it's so not discussed. And I'm so grateful that people like you are leading this way, this charge. So some of the questions that we do have, I have one. Do cannabis users receive the microbiome benefits of soil-grown cannabis when it is smoked?
Absolutely, they do. You know, there are ways to maybe get it better, you know, and that could be through, you know, an oil extract or you know, maybe a suppository, you know, some type of way. But did you have a thought about that?
Well, yeah, whenever we're in alignment with nature and whenever we're adding as much microbiology, then we give the plant the opportunity and choice to uptake what it needs at the right time. And therefore, we're giving the plant its ultimate potential on its secondary metabolites that it's producing, which is the trichomes, the terpenes, all of the cannabinoids in there. And we do see that when we take a really super high THC varietal or strain and we put it into really deep, rich, regenerative soil, that the cannabinoid structure is going to change, the terpene ratios are going to change, and they're going to become more well balanced, which is exactly what the plant wants to do in giving us the medicine. We know that the entourage effect and a more well-balanced terpene and cannabinoids are better for our health and well-being. And that's also the ultimate potential of the plant.
I would say we are supreme supporters of sun-grown, and that should be really contagious. The more we all get educated about that, and then you take that to your dispensary and start demanding that from your local farmers, that will be a beautiful butterfly effect that will deeply affect all of us. So helping spread that through education of how important to not have chemicals, and as much as can get it in the ground. It's still nice some other ways, but it's just really, there's something super just part of the whole system, and then of multiple and maximum benefit to us as humans. And it's not just the body, it's definitely the mind and the spirit as
Definitely.
well. That helps
And
connect.
And the smoking is that ancient tradition, it's that ancient tradition. There's also, probably maybe a somewhat unknown benefit to having the smoke in your lungs. We're out here farming, and everyone's, I got to be careful about the microbials. Well, every time I spread hay, I got microbials everywhere. I got, health and well-being. So the smoking is very important.
But
and you don't have to smoke too.
I've seen dessert too. That is recommended in small doses.
There you go. I just want to put in one more question before we close off this webinar. Do you see cannabis as a psychedelic? And if so, what way does it differ from other psychedelics?
I would say that cannabis is a psychedelic because it's psychoactive and it helps the structure of your brain and helps the structure of your neurology. It's a different vehicle towards spirituality. There's a lot of different ways to get towards well-being or whatever, you're looking for within that. It's obviously more of a daily psychedelic potentially rather than like an ayahuasca or something, which may be used in a less frequent manner.
And psychedelic is really just stimulation of the psyche. So this is an incredible conscious raiser, everything that we know about cannabis from the very beginning of written script is that it has been used for the consciousness of humanity. So is it a psychedelic? Absolutely. It definitely is a psychedelic because it raises our consciousness.
And especially different strains or different THC versus the CBD, the CBG, up and coming, different qualities and components. So if it has freaked you or a loved one out, it was just not the right thing for them. So trial and error is important. There's recommended ways to do that of starting small, or sometimes you start big and then start backing off. There's certainly so many blends these days, and that the farmers are able to grow and specify. So I think that's another important part on the educating piece is there's not a one size fits all, and it's actually the opposite. It can be so tailored to just you, and it might take a little experimenting and working with somebody who has really been educated. So I'm really excited for the work MAPS is doing, and how I can't wait to see these clinics popping up over the next decade, and these can integrate with the local growers of food and medicine, and have these beautiful healing spaces for people to safely find out more about these and try them for themselves and their loved ones too.
Awesome. They say the endocannabinoid system is like your thumbprint. Nobody's the same. Everybody's different. And we should appreciate, enjoy that. The fact that we are all connected, but we're all different in our own perfect way. So I think I'm gonna just wrap it up with that. Thank you, Delphina, Josh, and Kelly, for all of your inspiration. I love to hear it. So I would like to take this time to thank all of our speakers. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for being here and supporting the series, these speakers, this important research. Thank you to all of our sponsors. If you haven't checked out the perks pages yet, make sure that you do so and post again in the chat. Up and coming, our next episode will be taking place December 8th with Wade Davis. And do not forget to access some of your perks. Thank you so much again for attending, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for